Okay, let's jump right in. Here's a question for you, especially if you're rising through the ranks in IT. Why do some CIOs get that seat at the main table, the strategic one, where the company's future is being mapped out? Well, others seem permanently stuck, just
Well,
keeping the lights on, patching servers, managing the help desk.
yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really cuts to the heart of what the CIO role is today, because the reality is this job has changed fundamentally
Yeah.
over the last, say, 20 years.
Completely transformed.
Right. And if you, or maybe someone you're mentoring, is still stuck in that old mindset, the high-level technical manager, well, frankly, they're missing the boat. The modern CIO isn't primarily a tech specialist anymore. They have to be a strategic executive. A bridge, really,
A bridge between what and what?
between the big picture, business strategy, market share, making products stand out, driving revenue, and actually using technology effectively to get there, to achieve those specific goals.
And that leap, that required jump from technician to genuine executive strategist. That's exactly what we're diving into today. Our sources for this, they're rooted in decades of leadership research, real-world executive development. Specifically, we're looking at Chapter 2, which focuses right on the strategic traits of successful CIOs.
Exactly. And our mission here, for you listening, is to really pull out those essential traits. The strategic ones, yes, but also the interpersonal skills that define a top-tier C-suite tech leader today. We need to move past this outdated idea that strategic ability is just something you're born with or you get lucky.
Right, it's not just innate talent.
No. It's about specific skills, mindsets, things you can actually cultivate, practice, and use to
Yeah.
really elevate your impact as a leader.
So today we're hitting the core competencies, making that crucial shift, prioritizing business acumen, maybe even over deep technical know-how in some ways. And then we'll unpack some specific, pretty powerful frameworks that actual strategists use, tools to challenge assumptions and plan effectively.
That's the plan. This deep dive is really designed to give you practical knowledge, stuff you can use to level up your leadership mindset in tech. So if this conversation feels relevant to where you want to go in your career, definitely follow this series. And maybe share it with someone you know who's getting ready for that C-suite jump, someone who needs to make that strategic shift.
Okay, let's frame this shift first, because it's not just a minor tweak, is it? It's pretty dramatic. For years, decades even, CIOs were valued almost entirely for their technical skills. Could you keep the systems up? Could you manage big integrations? If yes, you were golden.
Right, that was the benchmark. But modern research, it tells a completely different story about what's needed at the C-suite level now. Consistently, competency benchmarks show that these so-called soft skills, negotiation, communication, resolving conflict, real leadership, and strategic thinking, they actually outweigh the hands-on technical stuff in today's executive world.
That must be a huge mental shift for someone who spent their whole career honing those technical skills.
Oh, absolutely. If you survey the skills that are most highly rated for CIOs today, what comes out on top? Strategic management, leadership across the enterprise, clear communication. These consistently rank way above deep technical expertise. In fact, tech skills now often rank lower than things like collaboration and managing change effectively.
Wow, so your success hinges on skills you might not have even focused on until pretty recently in your career.
It creates this challenging dual identity sometimes. The role now really demands the kind of holistic business insight you'd expect from a general manager. Someone described the modern CIO as facing this incredibly demanding triple threat of pressures.
A triple threat. Okay, what are the three?
Right, so CEO-level strategic responsibility, thinking about the company's overall direction. Then CO-level operational complexity, running these massive global critical systems. And finally, CFO-level financial pressure, managing huge budgets, proving ROI. If you're only equipped for that operational or technical third, you just can't succeed at the enterprise level.
That triple mandate really puts the scope of the modern CIO role into perspective. And the research backs this up, right? Comparing top CIOs to CEOs.
Precisely. When they benchmarked top-performing CIOs against their C-suite peers, the results were striking. They scored comparably to CEOs on almost all the major leadership dimensions.
Like vision setting, decision making.
Exactly. Vision, decisions, driving change. The whole package. And this really cements the idea that the standout CIO today isn't a tech expert who happens to manage people. They are, first and foremost, a business leader with strategic insight. Technology is their primary tool, yes, but it's a tool used for sustainable business improvement. You're a business strategist first, technologist second.
Okay, so we can kind of visualize this huge shift by looking at the different functions, the roles a CIO plays. There's that Hutter and Riedel model from 2017, distilled the job into 6 core archetypes.
Yes, and that framework is maybe the clearest way to see the strategic mandate in action. Think about the 6 roles. The first 2 are what we typically associate with the historical CIO. There's the technology provider, basically, keeping the existing systems and infrastructure running smoothly.
Keeping the lights on.
Exactly. And the strategic supporter, which means executing tech projects that other parts of the business have already decided on and approved. These are important, sure, but they're fundamentally reactive.
Okay, so 2 reactive roles. And the other 4, the majority, they're proactive and strategic.
Entirely. These are the roles where the modern CIO really earns their keep. You have the business thinker. They're developing IT strategies that directly impact profit market differentiation. Then the innovation driver, actively seeking out and integrating emerging tech to create new business value, not just supporting existing value.
Okay, 2 more.
The integration advisor, making sure technology and business processes actually work together smoothly across all the different departments, breaking down those silos. And finally, the relationship manager, building those absolutely crucial bridges and rapport with the CEO, the board, other C-suite leaders. It's about strategy, change, and relationships, fundamentally.
So if those 4 strategic roles are key, let's define the traits needed to actually do them well. It's a mix, right? Innate qualities, things you learn, adapting to situations.
It is. And the first crucial trait has to be visionary leadership. This means the CIO must look beyond just the day-to-day fires. They need to chart a technology vision that actively drives business innovation. If you're only reacting to today's needs, you're already behind. You've got to position the company for what's next.
I remember a specific term used here in the research, neophilia. Sounds intriguing.
It's a great term, neophilia. It's basically the strong tendency seen in successful digital leaders to actively embrace novelty, to seek out new ideas, new processes, new technologies. They aren't just waiting to see how competitors use AI or IoT. They're actively experimenting now, figuring out how to connect those technologies directly to future revenue or getting new customers. It takes real curiosity, a willingness to step into the unknown.
But having a great vision isn't enough if you can't execute it, especially under pressure. That brings us to resilience and fortitude.
Exactly. A CIO's world is defined by constant high-stakes pressure. You're keeping mission-critical systems up 24/7, overseeing massive multi-million-dollar projects, handling sudden crises. Fortitude means staying calm and critically effective when things go wrong, when there's a major outage, or worse, a cyber attack.
Like not panicking.
Precisely. Resisting that intense pressure to make an immediate knee-jerk reaction, which is often the wrong one, and potentially catastrophic financially. It means maintaining a long-term view, staying level-headed when everyone else might be demanding you just do something. It's keeping your cool.
It's a difference between managing the crisis and letting the crisis manage you.
Well put. And finally, related to vision, is being an innovation champion. This isn't just about having ideas, it's about fostering innovation. Proactively exploring emerging tech, AI, blockchain, IoT, and actively encouraging experimentation across the organization, even knowing that some experiments will fail.
Understanding that failure is part of the process.
Yes, and understanding that technology isn't the goal itself, it's always a means to a business end, whether that's making customers happier, making operations way more efficient, or grabbing more market share.
Okay, but this raises a key question. How does someone who's, say, a really competent head of app development or a lead network engineer, how do they actually build the strategic muscle? It feels like a different kind of training is needed.
That's the pivot, isn't it? Moving from understanding the traits to actually applying them. And that requires a deliberate focus on skills often underdeveloped in the tech career path. Genuine business acumen. We've pinpointed 3 absolutely critical business acumen skills. These are, frankly, non-negotiable if you want that seat at the strategic table.
And the first one, probably the most essential for just talking the same language as the rest of the C-suite, is financial literacy.
Absolutely. If you want to have a serious strategy discussion with a CEO or CFO, you have to speak the language of money. Now, this isn't about needing to become an accountant overnight. It's about understanding the financial impact of every technology decision.
So, reading the core reports, balance sheets, income statements.
Yes, you need to be able to read and basically interpret the balance sheet, what the company owns and owes, the income statement, profit and loss over a period, the cash flow statement, how money is moving in and out, But most critically, you need to be able to clearly articulate how IT investments connect directly to things the business cares about: revenue, improving margins, driving growth.
Can you give an example? Like, how would a financially literate CIO frame an investment differently from someone just focused on IT costs?
Sure, let's take cybersecurity. A purely cost-focused IT leader might say, we need $2 million for new firewalls to reduce risk. Okay, fine. But a financially literate CIO frames that same investment in business terms. They might say something like, look, our current risk profile suggests there's a 40% chance of a major breach this year. Based on industry data, that kind of breach would likely cost us around $15 million in remediation, lost revenue, maybe reputational damage. So this $2 million investment isn't just a cost, it's a direct financial hedge. It secures roughly a $7.5 million expected return just by mitigating that specific risk. See the difference? You shift from cost center thinking to value protection, even to value creation.
That reframing is powerful. Okay, second critical skill, market orientation.
Market orientation is vital. It means you, as the leader, truly understand how the company's products or services create value for customers. And just as importantly, how the company competes in its specific marketplace. You need to know the business model inside and out. Who are our customers, really? What makes us different from our competitors? Is it price, quality, speed, something else? And how do we actually capture value, make a profit?
So for the CIO, this translates to asking.
Asking questions like, how can our technology make our customer experience noticeably better than the competition's? Or, how could technology make our core operations 10 times faster or cheaper than anyone else in the market?
Because if the CIO doesn't grasp what customers actually value, they could champion, say, a super expensive new CRM system that doesn't actually solve any real market problems.
Exactly. The tech has to support the value proposition the business offers, which leads directly to the third skill, strategy articulation. You can't execute a strategy if you don't fully get it or if you can't explain it clearly.
Makes sense. You need to understand the grand plan.
You do. You need to understand the core business strategy, the plan for how the company intends to outperform competitors over the next, say, 3 to 5 years. If the overall business strategy has become the lowest cost provider, then the IT strategy has to be laser-focused on operational efficiency, automation, driving down costs aggressively.
And if the strategy is different, like innovation.
Right. If the strategy is be the most innovative premium brand, then IT needs to pivot hard towards customer experience tech, platforms that support R&D, tools that speed up time to market, even if those tools are more expensive.
Yeah.
At the CIO level, knowing the business strategy is fundamental because it dictates how you prioritize everything, how you allocate resources for every single major IT initiative. It's the filter.
Okay, so we have this general business acumen finance market strategy. Let's get more tactical. What about specific repeatable exercises or frameworks that help build and practice this strategic muscle? The tools that separate strategic thinkers from just operational planners.
Yes. These frameworks are how you turn abstract strategic thinking into something concrete, something actionable. A great place to start is scenario planning. This was famously used by Shell Oil back in the 70s to navigate the huge uncertainty of the energy crisis, help them stay resilient.
And the key insight there, as I understand it, is that you're not trying to predict the one true future. That's impossible. You're trying to prepare for several plausible futures.
Exactly right. For a CIO and their team, the process involves identifying, say, 2 critical uncertainties facing the business. Things where the outcome is genuinely unknown, but the impact would be massive. Let's imagine. Uncertainty A is the pace of AI adoption will be super fast and disruptive or slow and heavily regulated. And uncertainty B is future tech talent will it be abundant and relatively cheap or scarce and very expensive.
Okay, so you take those 2 uncertainties and plot them on a 2x2 grid. That gives you 4 different potential future worlds.
Exactly. You might have a future where AI is fast and talent is cheap, maybe call it the utopian tech future, or the opposite, slow AI. Expensive talent, the stagnant future, and 2 others in between. Then, the CIO's team rigorously analyzes how their current IT strategy would actually perform in each of those 4 distinct worlds.
And the real value comes from finding actions that work well no matter which future happens.
That's the goal. You identify robust actions. These are initiatives maybe investing in highly agile infrastructure or cross-training your workforce so they're more adaptable that provide benefits and advantage across most, if not all, of those plausible futures. It really deepens the organization's readiness and ability to adapt.
It feels like a way to stress test your entire strategy against things that haven't even occurred. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about five forces analysis, Michael Porter's framework. This forces you to look beyond just your direct competitors, right?
It's really the bedrock tool for understanding how competitive an industry is and how attractive it is to be in. It examines five key forces: the intensity of competitive rivalry among existing firms, the threat of new entrants coming into the market, the threat of substitute products or services, the bargaining power of buyers, your customers, and the bargaining power of suppliers.
How does a CIO use this day to day?
It directly informs major decisions, especially around sourcing and vendors. Understanding supplier power, for example, is crucial when negotiating large contracts or deciding whether to build versus buy certain technologies.
Let's use the Netflix example. How did they implicitly use this thinking?
Well, back when Netflix was mostly streaming content licensed from big movie studios and TV networks, they faced immense bargaining power of suppliers. Those studios could charge enormous fees, or worse, just pull their popular content.
Huge vulnerability.
Massive. And their strategic response, which was brilliant, directly addressed this force. They decided to become a content producer themselves.
Creating Netflix originals.
Exactly. By creating their own hit shows and movies, they drastically reduced the power those traditional studios had over them. They weren't totally reliant anymore. And at the same time, they increased customer switching costs. Because if you wanted to watch Stranger Things or The Crown, you had to stay subscribed to Netflix. The CIO's role in enabling this, building the tech to scale production, manage global streaming, handle massive data, was absolutely critical. They turned a five forces weakness into a major strength.
That's a fantastic example of strategy in action. Okay, one more framework, Blue Ocean Strategy Canvas. This one challenges leaders to stop battling competitors head-on in the crowded, bloody red ocean and instead find new, uncontested market space, a blue ocean.
Right. Blue Ocean's strategy pushes you to break the perceived trade-off between value and cost. It asks you to look at the factors your industry competes on right now, things everyone takes for granted. Then you decide which of those factors you can eliminate entirely or significantly reduce. And simultaneously, you identify new factors that could deliver breakthrough value to customers, deciding which to raise well above the industry standard or create from scratch.
The classic example often used isn't digital, it's Cirque du Soleil. They didn't try to be a better traditional circus, they reinvented it.
Precisely. They looked at traditional circuses and saw high-cost factors. Expensive animal acts, the insurance for those acts, maybe paying star performers. They eliminated the animals. They reduced the focus on slapstick and things aimed just at kids. But what did they tree and raise? Sophistication. They blended elements of theater, opera, ballet, original music. They targeted a completely different market. Adult professionals, people who might normally go to the theater, not the traditional circus audience.
So for a CIO, applying this thinking might mean
It could mean identifying high-cost, low-value legacy systems or processes that everyone just assumes are necessary and figuring out how to eliminate them. And then creating a completely new, maybe digitally enabled service or experience that appeals to a customer segment the company wasn't even targeting before. It's about fundamentally changing the game, not just playing it better. These frameworks, they're how you train yourself to think like a strategist, not just manage operations. Okay, so you've got the strategic thinking, you're using these frameworks, but it's all useless if you can't communicate it effectively, if you can't build consensus and get buy-in across the C-suite, the board, your own teams. So effective communication, it's the absolute foundation of a strategic leadership style. It demands a really clear focus on the vision, setting expectations clearly, and this is key, adapting your message for very different audiences.
and that adaptability piece puts the CIO right in that crucial role of translator, doesn't it? The deep technical language that probably got them promoted can actually become a barrier now.
Absolutely. It's a paradox. Your ability to translate complex tech concepts, why we need a hybrid cloud, what quantum computing might mean down the road, the risks in our API strategy into terms that business executives understand. That's paramount. Executives are focused on revenue, market share, risk in business terms. So the CIO has to frame every single IT initiative in terms of its clear business impact.
So instead of talking server latency,
Exactly. You don't talk about milliseconds of server latency improvement. You talk about how the new system enables faster product launches, which translates directly into, say, a 2-week speed advantage over your closest competitor in getting a new feature to market. That's the language they understand.
that storytelling aspect seems really vital. I remember seeing some practical advice from the MIT Sloan CIO Symposium about presentation techniques, something called the three-finger punch.
Yes, the three-finger punch. It's a fantastic, simple tool for cutting through the noise and managing limited executive attention spans. The idea is, when you're presenting any significant IT proposal or update to management, you lead with just three compelling facts, or, more importantly, business benefits, not features, right up front.
Like a quick summary of the why.
Exactly. For instance, this security upgrade will achieve three critical things. First, it directly reduces our potential compliance fine exposure by $500,000 annually. Second, it speeds up our customer onboarding process by 15%. And third, it gives us the regulatory green light we need to launch into the European market next year. Boom. You anchor the whole discussion in tangible business value from the very first sentence.
Okay, so communication is the foundation. What about the next layer up? Relationship building and interpersonal skills. The research seems to hammer home that these are what truly separate successful executives.
They really are. And conversely, the lack of these relational skills, you might call it emotional intelligence or EQ, is consistently flagged as the single biggest weakness, the primary thing holding people back from reaching that next level. We often label them soft skills, but honestly, they're the hard skills when it comes to actually wielding influence, securing budgets, navigating the inevitable politics within any large organization. The CIO needs to be a master politician, in the best sense of that word.
Okay, the sources identify 5 key traits that effective leaders show in their relationships. Let's walk through those, starting with self-awareness.
Right. First is self-awareness. Really knowing your own strengths, yes, but also your weaknesses. And crucially, understanding how your behavior impacts others. If you realize you have a tendency to interrupt people, that signals disrespect, right? So you adjust that behavior to build better rapport. Second, and this one can be tough for high achievers, is a genuine willingness to delegate important tasks. This isn't just about offloading work. It's about intentionally building trust, boosting confidence, and developing capability within your team. It's actually a powerful relationship-building tool when done right.
Interesting. Okay, the third and fourth seem focused on interaction style.
They are. Third is demonstrating strong interpersonal skills. This covers a lot, showing empathy, being skilled at negotiation, having that ability to build genuine rapport with people at all levels, not just your peers or bosses, but everyone. Fourth is adopting a participative management style. Look, autocratic leaders might get some short-term wins, but they constantly run into political roadblocks down the line. A participative approach builds consensus, which is essential for getting sustained long-term support for those massive, complex IT transformations.
And the final one is about handling difficult conversations.
Yes, the ability to give constructive, effective feedback. This takes discipline. You have to focus on the behavior or the process you want to see changed, not attack the person. Feedback needs to be specific, delivered sensitively, and always with a clear intent to help improve performance, not just criticize. It takes courage to deliver, but real empathy to frame it correctly.
For someone listening who feels maybe these relational skills are a weaker area, what's a practical starting point?
The most powerful tip is probably this. Start strengthening your self-awareness by paying acute attention to every single interaction you have. Really be present. Make eye contact. Listen more than you talk. And make a conscious effort to connect with people at all levels, the security guard at the front desk, the intern getting coffee, the board member in the elevator. Every single interaction is a data point giving you feedback on your leadership impact. Now, to see how all these traits, the strategic thinking, the communication, the relationship building come together, let's look at a really great narrative example. It's the fictional case, but very realistic, of Jim Barton, who becomes CIO of IVK Corporation in the book The Adventures of an IT Leader. Barton's story is perfect because he wasn't an IT guy originally. He came from loan operations. He was unexpectedly thrown into this huge, high-stakes CIO role.
So that non-technical background must have immediately forced him to focus on the business side of things rather than getting lost in the tech details.
Exactly. He arrives, he's completely overwhelmed by the technical jargon, the sheer volume of projects. What does he do? He immediately asserts a strategic, business-first perspective. He literally scribbles a mantra on his whiteboard for everyone to see. IT management is about management. He wanted every conversation focused on things like profit, risk, return on investment, process improvement, people. He explicitly steered conversations away from, as he put it, Trojan this or blade server that. He positioned himself as a business leader from day one.
But he still had to lead a technology organization. He needed to learn fast, and he showed incredible learning agility, didn't he, through a kind of humility, and there was an acronym.
Yes, KWYDK.
Yeah.
He was drowning in the technical complexity, feeling completely out of his depth. He actually confessed his struggles to one of his technical staff members. And this employee gave him this slightly cryptic but absolutely essential piece of advice. You've got to know what you don't know. Barton shortened this to KWYDK.
Know what you don't know.
Precisely. And embracing this KWYDK principle, this intellectual humility, was key. It gave him the permission, if you like, to ask fundamental, even basic questions without feeling foolish. He could consult his technical experts openly, learn rapidly about the high-level risks and opportunities. And ironically, that very humility built tremendous credibility with his technical teams. They saw he was willing to listen and learn, not just dictate from ignorance.
And we see his fortitude really tested during that major crisis, the system outage and security scare.
Oh, that's a pivotal moment. The systems are down, there's suspicion of hackers, stress levels are through the roof. The CFO, Graham Wells, basically panics and urges Barton to take the most extreme action imaginable. We should shut down every computer in the place. Just pull the plug on everything.
Which would have paralyzed the entire company.
Completely. Millions in lost business. Chaos. But Barton demonstrated phenomenal fortitude. He didn't dismiss the CFO's fear, but he resisted that immediate, catastrophic, knee-jerk reaction. He stayed calm, insisted on getting more data, more analysis, to actually confirm the severity of the breach before taking such a drastic step. He acted as that calm, decisive, analytical voice the organization desperately needed in that moment of crisis. That is executive leadership under extreme pressure.
That kind of leadership, that ability to learn and stay calm, it needs the right environment to really flourish. Which brings us to the kind of culture a leader like Barton needs to actively foster. Things like continuous learning and safety.
Absolutely. Continuous learning can't just be a line item for quarterly training. It needs to become an organizational lifestyle, really embedded in how people work. This is what gives an organization its strength, its adaptability, its resilience in a tech landscape that changes almost daily. Plus, it demonstrably leads to more efficient leadership, and it's critical for attracting and keeping good people, especially younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, who actively expect development opportunities and a chance to keep learning.
And underpinning that learning culture, enabling the innovation we talked about, is psychological safety. This term comes up a lot now.
And for good reason. It's not just some fuzzy feel-good HR concept. It's a measurable, shared belief within a team that individuals feel safe enough to speak up, to offer opinions, even dissenting ones, to take interpersonal risks, like admitting a mistake or asking a dumb question without fearing rejection, ridicule, or some kind of career punishment.
Google's Project Aristotle famously found this was the #1 factor in high-performing teams, right?
Exactly, it's the secret sauce. So a CIO has to be intentional about cultivating this safety. We can understand it better using the steeple model, which breaks psychological safety down into 6 specific dimensions that leaders need to build into their team's norms and behaviors.
Okay, what are the 6? The first couple focus on connection.
Yes. Dimension 1 is human connection, making a real effort to know your team members as people, beyond just the tasks they do, understanding a bit about their lives, their motivations. It builds trust. Dimension 2 is inclusivity. This means making active, visible efforts to invite participation from everyone in discussions, especially folks who might be naturally quieter or maybe more junior in the hierarchy, ensuring all voices can be heard.
Okay, the third one sounds like where the real vulnerability comes in. Courageous authenticity.
That's a big one. Courageous authenticity means being willing to be vulnerable yourself. Admitting when you don't have the answer, that's KWYDK in action again. It means speaking up about mistakes or project risks before they snowball into disasters. And it means being open to giving, and just as importantly, receiving difficult feedback without getting defensive. It requires courage, definitely.
Makes sense. And the last 3 dimensions, openness and reliability.
All right. Fourth is open mindset. Being genuinely open to new ideas, even if they challenge the way things have always been done. Embracing challenges rather than instinctively defending the status quo. Fifth is respect. Creating an environment where people feel genuinely valued and where it's not just okay, but actually expected that people will professionally disagree sometimes without fear of payback. And finally, sixth is consistency. This means people, especially leaders, actually follow through on their commitments. They're reliable. You can trust their word. A CIO who is actively working on nurturing all 6 of these dimensions isn't just being nice. They're architecting the optimal environment for sustained innovation, problem solving, and successfully managing really complex digital change.
Okay, we've spent a lot of time emphasizing the strategic breadth, the business acumen, the soft skills, but let's tackle the elephant in the room directly. How technical does the CIO actually need to be today? Is deep, hands-on technical expertise still essential for success at that C-level? Or could it even be a liability, pulling focus from the strategic issues?
Ah, yes. This is the classic tension point, isn't it? For anyone moving up the IT ladder, there are strong arguments on both sides. The pro-business side argues, pretty forcefully, that strategic vision, communication skills, business savvy, these are overwhelmingly more important at the executive level. Their view is, the CIO's primary value comes from bridging the gap between what technology can do and what the business needs it to do. You achieve this by surrounding yourself with brilliant technical experts, maybe a CTO, a chief architect, a head of engineering, and you, the CIO, focus purely on strategy, governance, and relationships.
And they point to examples like Jim Barton or
Sure.
other CIOs hired deliberately from non-IT backgrounds in major companies as proof this model works.
Exactly, that bolsters their argument. But
But I have to push back a bit. Doesn't a complete lack of technical depth create huge risks? The pro-technical side makes a very valid point. Without a solid foundational understanding of IT, doesn't a CIO risk making terrible technology investment decisions, misjudging massive security risks, losing all credibility with the technical teams who actually have to build and run things?
that's an excellent counterpoint, and it really defines where the consensus seems to land now. It's a necessary compromise. While deep, hands-on coding ability or system administration skills are almost certainly unnecessary for a CIO today, a baseline technical understanding is absolutely required.
Okay, but what does baseline mean in practice?
It means understanding core architectural principles like cloud versus on-prem, microservices, APIs. It means grasping the fundamentals of cybersecurity and risk management. It means knowing the difference between vendor lock-in and open source ecosystems and the implications of each. It means being able to recognize when a proposed technical solution is genuinely viable and strategically sound versus maybe just vendor hype or vaporware. You have to be technically literate enough to ask the right probing questions, to critically evaluate the technical proposals your team brings you, even if you couldn't code it yourself.
So enough technical knowledge to govern effectively, to lead the technical experts, but recognizing your time is better spent focused on the C-suite level concerns, strategy, finance, market relationships.
Precisely. As the role has evolved, that pendulum has swung decisively. The CIO today is primarily a strategist, a business leader who leverages technology. The deep technical specialization comes from their team. You lead the right people, facilitate the right conversations.
Okay, this feeds perfectly into our final critical debate then. Is the CIO fundamentally a strategic partner to the business, or are they still, in many cases, functioning more like an order taker?
Historically, yeah, the IT department was often seen as an order taker. Marketing needs a new campaign tool. Finance needs a new reporting system. Okay, IT will build or buy it. But the expectation today is fundamentally different. CIOs are required to shift from just executing projects delegated by others to proactively driving business innovation, to actively shaping the overall corporate strategy.
And there's data on this shift.
Yes, substantial data. Recent surveys show something like 75% of CIOs are now explicitly expected by their CEOs and boards to drive business innovation, develop and refine business strategy, and identify opportunities for competitive differentiation. Outface. This is not a passive support function anymore. It's an active leadership role demanding strategic contribution.
The challenge, though, must be earning that strategic credibility. It doesn't just come with the title, right?
Not at all. You have to earn it day in, day out.
Hmm.
And you earn it by consistently demonstrating that deep understanding of the business we talked about. By constantly bringing ideas to the table that go beyond just technology, fixes ideas about new markets, better customer experiences, more efficient operations, and crucially, by mastering that incredibly difficult balancing act, maintaining rock-solid operational reliability, keeping the lights on, systems secure while simultaneously fostering innovation, taking calculated risks, and driving new value creation. That ability to manage both the stable present and the innovative future. That's perhaps the ultimate strategic trait defining success for a CIO today. Hashtag outro.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up. To quickly summarize what feels like a really comprehensive deep dive. The successful CIO today isn't just a tech guru. They're really a strategic architect, someone who combines that forward-looking, visionary thinking and deep business understanding with those crucial relational skills needed to be a true strategic partner. We saw that perfectly in Jim Barton's story. His success came not from mastering servers, but from mastering strategic insight, communication, and that incredible fortitude under pressure.
That really is the core message. Strategic leadership isn't some magical quality you either have or you don't. It's a portfolio of skills you can build. Vision, communication, resilience, business acumen, fostering psychological safety. These are developed through deliberate practice, by applying rigorous frameworks like the ones we discussed, and by learning from experience, especially learning from failures. It's really an ongoing journey, a lifestyle of learning, not just a destination you arrive at.
Well, thanks for tuning in to this deep dive. If anything we discussed today sparked a new way of thinking about IP leadership, maybe your own career path, please pass it on to someone else who might benefit. And of course, if you're ready to lead and want more insights like this, stay with us for the rest of the series.
And maybe one final question for you to ponder. What would it really take for you today to step into those CIO shoes and not just fill the role, but lead with genuine impact, balancing those non-negotiable demands of keeping technology running flawlessly with the equally vital need for enterprise-wide strategic vision?
Remember, technology drives change, but leadership drives impact. Keep learning, keep growing, and lead the future you want to create.